Hello and welcome. You've reached Zero Limits Living. Every week I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. This show has become so popular so quickly you can now see it or hear it on 1,000 platforms around the world. And that includes Amazon Fire, Apple TV, Roku, YouTube, Spotify, and probably anything you can name. I'm putting all the shows in one place, ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com. Also, I want to remind you, I started a coaching program 20 years ago. This has been trademarked. This is a system that works. It has helped hundreds of thousands of people. You can go check it out. You can have a free consultation. Go to miraclescoaching.com. Miraclescoaching.com. Also, I've mentioned this before, but I have a new program and I'm so proud of it because it's a bestseller. I have to tell you to go check it out. It's called mentaltimetravel.system.com, mentaltimetravel.system.com. And now for the juicy stuff. We want to talk about health. We want to talk about wellness. We want to talk about quantum living. We want to talk about being at your best, physically, mentally, spiritually. And to that end, I have an exciting guest and exciting news. What we're going to be talking about is something very leading edge. It's already been proven. It's based on research and science. It's been out there for quite a while and comes from names that are the holy grail names in science, like Einstein and Tesla. And we want to introduce this, explain this, and tell you about this. So let me give you a quick introduction. This is about the AO scan technology. AO scan technology by Solex is an elegant yet simply designed technology inspired by discoveries from Tesla, Einstein, and many other renowned scientists. It is designed to communicate with the body via subtle biofrequencies and electromagnetic signals. This is all about health, wellness, and quantum living. Solex has compiled a database of over 120,000 unique blueprint frequencies and developed a handheld technology that allows you to compare your personal frequencies with these blueprints to guide you toward homeostasis, the body's natural state of balance. Now, the man behind all of this is Loran Swenson. I have met him online, heard his story, heard a little background, became so fascinated. I said, I want you as a guest on Zero Limits Living TV. Loran agreed, and Loran is here. Loran, how are you?
Well, thank you so much, Joe, for having me.
Of course, of course.
Great to be here.
I am so fascinated by the AO scan and the AO technology. As you know, my partner, Lisa Winston, had got into it, started using the scanning on herself, and then she just started using it on me. And I was just playing along. I didn't know what she was doing. I didn't know the company. I didn't know the scanning. I didn't know anything about Soltex. And I noticed that I started to feel better. I wasn't actually feeling bad, but I started to feel better and feel clearer. And then I started asking her about it. Next thing you know, I got my own machine. I'm using this handheld technology. One thing leads to another, and you and I get on the phone and you tell me a little of the background. So we need to start at some place where everybody watching or listening can connect. What is your elevator speech when somebody says, what is the AO scanning technology, this AO scan technology by Solex? How do you answer that on your elevator ride to the third floor?
That's a good one. Okay, so it's really short. How do you know about yourself? How do you feel about yourself? When was the last time that you scanned yourself? And that generally is, what do you mean scan myself? I haven't scanned myself. And then I'll pull out my device and show them, well, here I can, within seconds, scan my emotions, scan my physical, scan my all of this, and have it right in my palm of my hand. And not only that, it tells me what I'm not listening to in my body, things I need to change, things I need to, whether it's emotion or whatever. But my elevator speech is, are you listening to your body? How do I listen to my body? Well, here's how you can do it with the device right here in your hand, and it will tell you what you need to know right now.
And that is fascinating. So first of all, the device I use is this one right here, which I actually got from the company. It's just, it's a tablet. But I also want to point out, even though I'm using a tablet, the device, so to speak, is an app. And the
Yeah.
app is on a lot of other things. I also have it on my iPhone.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
also on my main computer, which is what I'm using to do this interview with. So the first thing I want everybody to get the grasp here is when we talk about doing a scan and then an optimization, we're actually using an app. And the app can be loaded on, is it true, on virtually anything?
Anything that has access to the cloud. So it can be an
Yes.
Apple and a PC, it can be a phone, a tablet, whatever. Anything that has access to the cloud.
And it's important that it has access because, as I understand it, none of the blueprints I was referring to in the introduction are actually in the app. They're
No,
in the cloud. And so
that's
we're downloading and uploading, we're going back and forth, and the app is our middleman, so to speak.
yeah. And the interesting thing is, we when we first started this, it was a device. It was a big PC that cost $30,000 and had to sit on
Mhm.
your desk. And to do, let's just say I was going to do a simple scan that was going to scan my vitals, which is basically looking at my blood, my toxicities, my nutrition, that type of stuff, would take me about 20 minutes
Mhm.
because it's one processor on a device. By putting this technology in the cloud on servers, we can do what took 20 minutes in less than 2 minutes. And so now you can get that information so much faster because now I have 12 processors crunching that data instead of one.
And this is where we need to break it down some. I mean, even for me, I am a user. I have been using this virtually every day for, at this point, at least 2 months, maybe 3. I've lost track of time. And I do it daily. I am doing the scanning on myself. I'm doing the optimization on myself. Actually, there's a program running right now to help me with my speaking to you in this moment. It's running on the tablet I just held up.
Right.
So I'm using this thing all the time. I think the first thing that would come to mind for anybody, including me, is how in the world does it scan you? What is it scanning? How does it scan? And to do it
That's,
in 1 to 2 minutes?
yeah. So those are questions that I'll try to make it really simple, but obviously it's
Mhm.
like an onion. The more you pull back, the more there is to learn.
Mm.
All we're doing, and really Einstein really uh, nailed this down. Everything in the world is frequency, everything, and everything has a vibration. And you've got to give credit to the Russian space program because back in the late 80s, early 90s, they were working on being able to monitor the cosmonauts that were at the International Space Station. They'd be up there for 6 months at a time. You get a sore throat, you can't just go in and see the doctor. You're not feeling well. How do you do this? And they are the ones that catalog the first 119,000 specific frequencies in the human body.
Hmm.
We now have over 170,000 of those frequencies. We've added another, 50, 60,000 of those since then. But
Mhm.
they're the ones that actually came up with this. And the way it was, it had two big transducers on the cosmonaut's head, and they would send by radio, from what is it, 200 something miles to the space station. They would send that frequency up. The transducers would then apply that frequency to the head, and the brain would say, oh, that's the left ventricle of the heart, or it's the cornea of the right eye, or the meniscus of the left knee. And it would
Mm.
immediately give the vibrational rate of that particular item, send it right back. And then they would then compare, okay, here's what the normal frequency range is for that item. And here's where the cosmonauts was. It was either high or low. If it was high, they knew it was under stress. If
Mm.
it was low, they knew it was not being utilized. It
Optimized.
wasn't functioning right. That's how this started. And they really were geniuses in how they did this. But when we say, are you listening to yourself? Are you listening to your body? When the frequency went in, it was just an algorithmic
Mm.
frequency that went in, and the brain never recognized it and sent back
Mm.
an algorithmic frequency back. So
Mm.
that's how it's done. Now the question is, well, how did it know that particular cosmonaut, not the one sitting right next to him?
Right.
Okay.
Right.
And it's the same with our cell phone. Joe, if you were in Timbuktu and I was in
Mhm.
Beijing, China, and I called your cell phone, I put in your 11 digits, only your phone would ring.
Ah.
right?
Yeah.
Not the guy next to you, just your phone. Our bodies, when we enter somebody into the program, it creates a unique cell, body cell number that is unique to you. And the odds of there being two of those exact same frequency signatures are 1 in 3 trillion. It's not going to happen.
Wow.
So the frequency that we created for you, or you created for you when you entered your data into the app, was unique to you. So it doesn't matter where you are, space and time have nothing to do with it. We enter in that number, you're going to respond. And whatever signals we give to you, you will send back to where they came from. Now, it sounds a little bit like voodoo, but if you think about it, how do you turn in a radio station? How do we make a cell phone call? It's all really basic. We're sending a algorithmic frequency to a very specific target, and that target then responds right back to the sender. And that's how it works.
I'll tell you, that was actually an excellent explanation, especially with the cell phone and both of us being on other parts of the planet. But if
Yes.
you type in the right phone number and
Right.
you win the lottery because I'll answer the phone. This idea, though, you mentioned the astronauts and they're wearing their helmets or their headphones. I have three different, or at least two different headphones now. I have the ones that are the bone conductor, which are
Right.
actually my favorite because they don't go right in my ear. They're right underneath my ear. They're on the
Right.
bone on
Right.
both sides. And then, of course, because I have the iPhone, I have a wireless set of
Bone
earphones,
conductors.
headphones that I'm using with that one. And then, of course, I can put both of these down and just use the sound system that's with the Mac. What's the ideal? Which one should we be using? To me, that's a little confusing. It's like, do I use the
And
bone? Do I
yeah,
use the wireless? Do I use the speaker?
that's great. Whenever you can use an actual bone conductor headset,
Mhm,
that's what you want to use because it's right on here. There's
mhm,
no interference between the sender and the receiver.
mm,
However, you can't always have a headset.
mhm,
And so, um, if you can't have a headset, your signature, just like your phone, it's
mhm.
going to find you. But we're going to get a clear, cleaner reception through a bone conducting headset. Does that make sense?
It does, and my preference is the bone conducting headset
Yeah,
because I can still hear the outer world through my ears.
that's correct.
Nothing is cut off, and I have the direct signals going in, as opposed to if I played it over my Mac, over the speakers, it's kind of just filling the room. It'll get to me, but not directly to me.
Well,
So,
it's still, remember, um, 3 or 4 of you sitting in a room, you've all got a cell phone. I dial your phone, only your phone's going to ring. So
right,
even though you may not have a headset on, the only frequency that I dialed was you. And
yes.
so even though the other people are sitting right next to you, their frequencies, it's like I didn't get it. They're in the room, but they're not interacting with that frequency, and that's where it's at. I had a gentleman in Pittsburgh. This is going back 6 or 7 years, and I was at that time in Guangzhou, China, and he called me up and he says, um, "I can't sing anymore. I can't even speak. There's something wrong with my throat." And this is a guy that sings with a very prominent group back in the '60s.
Wow.
And I said, "Well, let me try and do a scan on you." No headset, didn't have a device, wasn't hooked up to the app, but I'm at my computer and I typed in all that information, set up a frequency signature for him, did the scan. It came back within 10, 15 minutes that there was something at the back of his tongue. And all I knew was that it was under stress. I didn't know what it was. I just knew where it was and that it was under stress. I says, "You need to go in and see your doctor. You need to go in and see what's going on." So the next day or the day after, he goes in and he sees his doctor. And sure enough, there was a benign tumor right at the back of his tongue at the beginning of his esophagus. And they were able to take care of it and he was fine. But he didn't know what it was. The doctor didn't even know where to look. But he walked in and says, "It's the back of my tongue." The doctor looked and sure enough, there it was.
That is a fascinating story on several counts. One of them is I wanted to bring up at some point that people use this technology to do readings on others. So in other words, they're doing scans on other people, not just themselves. I was talking about
That
using
is
it
correct.
on myself. Lisa does it. My partner, Lisa Winston, does it on other people all the time. She'll
Yeah.
do it on her daughter. She'll do it on other people. And so I understand that that is working. But you also brought up this point. At what point do you go to the doctor? I know we're not talking about healing. We're not talking about medical replacement. We're not a substitute for therapy and all of that stuff. At what point, if somebody gets readings repeatedly, like you may have hepatitis and it keeps showing up on a scan that's going on their body, can you optimize that out, or do you have
Okay,
to?
that's a great question.
Yeah.
And to clarify, so when we scan, and you've mentioned it several times, we optimize.
Yes.
Optimize, so we scan, it comes back and shows us where a frequency is out of balance. It's not where it should be. An optimization is sending that same frequency that came from the target, okay, that was out of balance, either high or low. We send that same frequency back, but 180 degrees out of phase, like noise canceling headphones. They take the noise that's out here, they play it back inside your ear cups 180 degrees out of phase, and so they cancel.
Mm.
And so the Russians found that if we send that same frequency back, but out of phase, in other words, when the normal frequency is going up, the canceling is going down. And when they hit each other, they cancel. If after 3 sessions, 3 different scans and optimizations, that stays the same, that's a good indication you need to go see a medical practitioner, whether that's a naturopath or an MD or whatever it is. When it doesn't, when we can't, when the frequencies don't balance it out, that's time to go see, a doctor.
Oh, Lord, that is incredibly insightful and powerful. Thank you for saying that. For me and for anybody else that would have that question on their mind. And I didn't know that. It's the rule of three at that point. The other thing, and this goes back to when you and I first met over the phone and you were telling me stories. One of the things you said is if we do the voice analysis, I don't have it in front of me, the inner voice, is it? And
Love
we
it.
did, if we did that daily, that alone would be enough to bring us into quantum living and a more optimum place. Is that correct?
Yes, I do. I do my inner voice every morning and every night. I may not do a full scan or a vitals or a comprehensive every day, but I do my inner voice every day, morning and night. It takes a few minutes, takes 10 seconds to record my voice,
Yep.
and then I'll listen to the 12 minutes of music while I'm getting ready. And
Mhm.
obviously, Joe, it's not the music that you're listening to that's doing it, it's the frequencies that are embedded behind the music that you can't even hear. They're way above our threshold of hearing.
Mm.
But when that happens, that's helping us put our emotions back in check. You show me somebody that has a physical ailment, and 9 times out of 10, there's an emotional anchor to that physical issue.
Mm.
Deal with the emotion, then the physical can heal. If we don't take care of the emotional issues, you're going to fight that physical issue over and over and over and over.
Mm.
Emotions are key. Our emotions are key.
And can we take care of them with the optimization, or do we have the old rule of three? If it's still there, you need to go see a therapist.
Well, no, here's the thing. On the emotions, our emotions are like the waves of an ocean.
Mm.
They're up and down all day long. You could get up in the morning happy as a lark, pull out of your driveway and back into your trash can, and
Mm.
all of a sudden your day just kind of took a turn. You got to get out of the car, you got to fix the car. Our emotions are always moving. In fact, that the inner voice was what really prompted us to go from the big scanner to a handheld. All we really wanted to do was put into the hands of every single person the ability to check and keep in check their emotions. It
Wow.
just grew from that. But
Mm.
our emotions are key. So do I need it 3 times? If I'm not fixing that emotion within, 3 or 4 times, I'm definitely going to be looking at making some changes in my life,
Mm.
whether that's diet, relationship, work, finances, all of those things. We can be as poor as church mice and be happy people. We can
Yeah.
be as wealthy as Bill Gates and be miserable. What we have doesn't determine or shouldn't determine how happy we are. We should be able to find our grounding point and be happy, and no matter what our status in life is,
Hmm.
keeping those emotions where they need to be, it's probably the best prevention of any disease I can think of.
And I would agree. Just based on what I know about science and healing and
Yes.
recovery, I would say emotions are the key. The other thing that stood out when you and I first talked on the phone a while back is that you repeated the word intention. You said intention was key. Do you remember saying that?
Oh yeah.
And why? Why is intention so important?
Okay, so we can say anything to ourselves or to other people about how we believe or feel or think, but our intention is not always what we say, and our intention is always going to manifest. And so if we intend to lift ourselves up, we truly have that intention, it will happen. We will bring that about. If our intention is to lift somebody else up, and that is truly our intention, we will find that that is our focus. So our intention of in whatever we do, whether it's the scan, the health, our work, if our intention is in line with what we're telling everybody and ourselves, it will happen. You know, people have said, "Oh, this is just placebo. Joe's just thinking he's feeling good because whatever." It's we that you could that's a valid statement, except if you're treating a horse or a dog or a
Hmm.
cat. And we have veterinarians that are scanning horses, dogs, and cats every day, and they're finding out there's no placebo effect in there. They don't know what the heck you're doing. You make
Right.
that signature for them, you scan them, and sure enough, it comes right up. We've got one veterinarian in Texas that is able to determine when a horse is ovulating so that he knows exactly when to get the mare. This is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
And this goes back. What was the intention of the vet to scan the horse? Um, it wasn't just this. His intention was to find out what the situation of the horse was. Intention is as powerful as a 220 getting shocked by a 220 outlet in your wall. It's real. It's a real power.
Hmm. I'm sensing though that there's a problem with intention because you said if we state the intention, and I might be reading into what you were saying, but it sounded like if I state the intention, but I either don't believe it or I'm not congruent with it, or it's somehow misspoken or mislabeled, it won't come true. What am I missing around intention? You said very clearly, and it's very inspiring, that your intention will come true if you are clear about it.
You
What
have
if
to
you're
be.
not?
Well, and so many people aren't clear. They say,
Right.
I
Right.
want to have more money. I want to have a better job. But they do the same thing over and over and over. They don't make any changes, which means their intention, their true intention, isn't in line with what they're saying. And that's when we have to truly understand that what we think and say, what a real intent is what we really are. We are nothing more than that.
In my work, I've called this area intentions and counter intentions. I say that intentions are incredibly powerful. They guide you, they lead you, they send messages to the universe, they align all kind of energy to go in a particular direction. However, if you have what I call a counter intention, meaning an opposing belief, a limiting belief, some sort of story experience in your background that creates a paradigm of limitation, your stated intention won't come true
That
because
is
your
correct.
unconscious counter intention is active.
Right.
This is how I
Exactly.
say it. Okay, so my question for you, Lauren, is how do we use the AO scanner and optimizer to align our intentions?
Yeah. Okay. So good point. Uh, I told you a minute ago, first thing I do every morning is my
Yes, me
emotion.
too. Me too.
I got to get my emotions in line when I wake up in the morning. So I'm going to sit down. I put on my headset, doing my voice, and I listen. I generally listen to the first one and the last one. I don't always listen to the two in the middle. Uh, the first one is the one I'm overcompensating for the most. The lowest one is the one I'm suppressing, and that's really the thorn in your heel.
I didn't even realize that. That's good to know. Okay.
Yeah, those four, it's the three highest and the one at the bottom. And it's always that one at the bottom that we suppress. It could be something from a childhood event that happened, 40, 50, 60 years ago. When I do that and I see what my report comes up and says, and I listen to those, that helps me realign my intention. Okay, what is my intention today? Am I going to deal with this? Am I going to focus on this? Am I going to move past this?
Hmm.
And that's how I get my intention in line. So I don't have, as you said, a counter intention.
Mm-hmm.
I believe in this, but I'm going to do this. You have to believe and do what you say. They have to
Yeah.
be the same.
This is very powerful and very insightful, and we're going to different levels and depths that I didn't expect. So I'm excited, Loran. Thank you for doing this. So when I do the inner voice, and I do it first thing in the morning, I come in here and I sit down, I pull up the tablet, I turn it on, I go to that inner voice section, I speak for 10 seconds, and then I wait for it to do its bubbly, juicy, whatever it's doing thing. And then when it plays the music, usually I use the bone headphones that came with it. But after I've listened for a few minutes, I take the phones off and I just let it play.
Okay.
Is it playing over the speaker just as effective, or are we going to, does it go back to the more profound direct results, or when you have it over the bone?
It's actually neither. It's
Oh,
actually on inner voice, it's better to actually have earbuds or ear cups because what's going in the right ear and what's going in the left ear are totally different. It's like
wow.
binaural, but it's not a binaural beat. It's
Mm-hmm.
a whole algorithm of frequencies here
Mm-hmm.
that are different from the algorithms on this side. And the
Mm-hmm.
brain focuses on that's the where they overlap. That's what the
Wow.
brain focuses on. So the inner voice is the one thing where we recommend people to use really good quality earbuds or over the ear. You won't get that same benefit if you're just listening to it in the speaker. The bone conductors are okay because it is here. But again, what's going in isn't even something you can hear. The closer we can get
Gotcha.
it to here
Gotcha.
because it's
Oh,
above our threshold.
that's a priceless tip for me personally right there, because I wasn't doing that.
Yeah.
Here's an off the wall question for you. As you know, Lisa Winston, my partner, was the one who got me going on this. So she's playing this all day long. She's playing it every day. She's playing it for other people. And she will often play hers without any headphones. So they're coming over the speaker. I am also doing something similar, and I'm playing mine over the speaker. Is there any way to have a clash if you've got a family of people using AO scanners and they're all playing their frequencies over their speakers? In one way, if you walked in the front door of our house, to the left of the house, that wing is me playing my frequency over the speaker. On the right side of the house is her playing her frequency over the speaker. And if we come out for dinner or something, then both of them are there. Is there any clash, or is it back to the cell phone analogy? And, the frequency goes to the person it's supposed to go to.
Okay, so on your optimization frequencies, yes, we're going to hear them. But it's just like if you and I went in and we sat down and a song came up on the radio that was particularly meaningful to me, but not to you, you're going to hear the music, but it's not really going to have any emotional impact on you like it did on me.
Hmm.
So, in other words, if you're listening to her
Yeah.
optimization frequencies, you hear them, but it has no effect on you. Uh, the only one that does is the inner voice. And the inner voice should never be played through speakers. It really should be played on your head with earphones that are just for you.
This is
Will it affect them negatively? No, it won't affect them negatively, but it won't affect them positively either, nor
Yeah.
will it affect you the way it should.
Gotcha. No, that's worth my time here so far.
Oh,
Just
good.
getting that. And I love how we're peeling back everything. How accurate are these readings? Because there's scannings for the body, there's scannings for the emotions. We got the inner voice doing the scanning. In fact, we can't cover everything that the device does. This handheld technology and the app, there's too much there for you and I to talk about here.
Yeah.
But how, in general, how accurate is this?
Okay. Let's take it in steps. The inner
Mhm.
voice we know is near 100%. In fact, on some station in San Diego a month ago, there was a whole episode on how the government's about to spend $38 billion on this new voice analysis program that is going to be so amazing. And I wanted to pick up the phone and say, hey, I've already got it. It's already here. It's not 38 billion. But
Right?
it is so powerful. It is more powerful and more accurate than a lie detector test.
Wow.
Now, when you go to the other sides, the vitals, which is looking at, blood chemistry and food sensitivities and nutritional stuff and all of that stuff, and the comprehensive, which is looking more at your physical structure, your muscles, your ligaments, and your organs. In the tests that we've been able to do side by side, so in other words, Joe, you came in, you sat down, we drew all your blood, caught your urine, sent it down to Quest Labs, and at the same time, we scanned you. So we did them at the same time, drew your blood, scanned you. Those results, when they have come back, have been about 85% in line with what the lab said. So a 15% plus or minus.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that doesn't sound so great until you realize that blood tests are only 50 to 55% accurate to begin with. So,
Wow.
and that's by their own admission, not something I came. So the other thing is your blood, if I drew your blood right now, and then 15 minutes from now, I drew it again, and you sent it to the same lab, you'd swear it was two different people when the lab came back, because your chemistry is always in a state of flux. It's always moving. Some organs are resting, other organs are busy. So when we talk to people about scanning, we say, okay, if you're going to scan on a regular basis, make it the same time every day. So for me, I get up, I scan, I do my inner voice, and then on the days I do my other scans, it's always between 7 and 9 in the morning, and then again at night, generally around 8 or 10 at night or 8, between 8 and 10 at night, I'll do it again. But I do that every day because our body clock is always moving. And so if you scan in the morning and then the next day you scan in the afternoon, you're not getting the same biological response to that scan.
Mm-hmm.
And so if people are doing that, I say, okay, then for a week, scan every morning, every afternoon, and every evening, and do that for a week so that your system learns you. And that's the other thing about AO Scan is a little bit of AI that's in it. It's learning how you respond to that stimulus, those frequencies added to you.
Mm-hmm.
And it generally takes 3 sessions, 3 scans before it really knows how Joe is going to respond when I put these frequencies in. The more you do it, the more fine-tuned that gets in. I give you one personal example that just happened.
Yes, please.
An hour before we got on today. Someone very close to me, we were doing some scans and there was something coming up in the lung. And all we know is that it was a 9, which means we know it's under stress. We don't know anything more than that. So this person went in and went in and had a CAT scan done with dye, and came back. There is a 1.2 centimeter tumor on the lung in the exact same spot the 9 was.
Oh.
So how accurate was that? I mean, that was spot on.
Mm-hmm.
So the point I'm trying to say is we need to learn how to listen to ourselves. Now, this individual knew there was an issue. They were having issues with breathing, getting winded, going up and down the stairs, doing all sorts of stuff. They didn't know what was going on. Joe, I really believe that within the next 20 years, this handheld device will look at that and say, oh, that's silly. I can do that by myself. Don't even need this. But right now, we don't have that intuitive intuition.
Mm-hmm.
And this is really teaching us how to tune into ourselves better.
I love it. I love it. We're optimizing our lives with tools like this. So this is a great service. Here's an odd question that I haven't been able to get out of my head, because we were talking about scanning other people. Like I told you, Lisa will scan her daughter. Can you optimize the other people? And the reason that question's coming up is because we're talking about listening to the bone headphones, or not listening to the bone ones, but having the direct headphones. And if you're doing it for somebody else that's in, I'm in Texas and this person's in Canada, maybe I can scan them, but can I optimize them?
Sure you can. If you scan them, you had a two-way connection. You send them a signal, they sent you back information.
Okay.
Optimization is going to work exactly the same. It's going to send those same frequencies back to them,
But
to the
they
back
can't
to the
hear it.
sender.
They don't have the headphones or
Doesn't matter. What we're sending is way above the threshold of hearing anyway.
okay. So when I
So
put the
now we get back
headphones,
to your word about intention.
yes.
Intention has no boundaries.
Hmm.
When we pray for somebody, does it matter where they are? And when we pray for somebody, who got the benefit of that prayer? When we think about somebody, who got the benefit of that thought? A mother, us guys, we tend to be a little more dense than our women counterparts. They can always sense when a child is not
Mm,
well. There's that innate sense. What is that? It's
mhm,
that quantum field, that quantum entanglement. We're all connected.
mhm.
Some of us are just better tuned to that.
Well, if intention is what the ruling principle is, why do I need the headphones at all? Why don't I just intend that when this thing plays, I've done my inner voice reading and it's going to play my tones. I'll just go, well, I intend for those to adjust whatever I needs adjusted in me. It's going to optimize me, and the hell with the headphones.
Love that question. And the truth is simple. You don't need the headphones. However,
Hmm.
for most people without that headphones, that's like voodoo. And that headphone helps
Right.
them, because they're feeling this here.
Yeah.
There's a connection, there's a belief, and then pretty soon that belief becomes a knowledge. And then when the knowledge is there, they say, okay, I can do this without the headphone. Like I say, in the future, I think you're going to be able to do it without the device at all. But
Right.
for right now, we do it. And so when I have a new client come in, I don't sit down and say, hey, you don't need that headset. I'll put the headset on, go through the whole thing. It's like giving them the hug, it's
Yeah.
giving them the injection, giving them the sugar pill, whatever it is.
Mhm.
It's okay. And then they feel something. I say, okay, something. And then when they have a corresponding reaction,
Hmm.
I feel better. Then pretty soon they say, well, let me do this. And you're at home. I don't have a headset. Well, let me just try and send it to you and see how that works. And then pretty soon, but
Mhm.
do you need the headset? No, except for inner voice. You need those. I still use the headset at home, but one day I was driving home and I felt some chest pain. I pulled off the road, pulled up my scanner, did a quick scan. I didn't have my headset with me,
Ah.
but I scanned myself, went through that little optimization, everything subsided, finished my drive home. I don't go anywhere without it. I
Yeah.
literally go nowhere without that scanner.
Yeah, we made our first trip in a few years, and that's when I bought the wireless headphones to go with the iPhone, since that's what I was
Yeah,
traveling with. I said, I'm not basically like, Carl Malden in the American Express years ago. I'm not leaving home without it.
yeah.
So I was taking it with me. Can you give me and our listeners, viewers, a story or two? You've given several, especially from yourself and a friend of yours, of success. Maybe something that's dramatic, something that comes to mind. Somebody's used the AO scanner optimizer and there was a shift.
Yeah. We had a doctor met with us, and he says, I've got a real issue. My girlfriend went down and did a ayahuasca
Yes.
session.
Huh? Mhm.
And ever since that was 3 months earlier, she's been absolutely afraid of everything. Her own shadow, she
Really?
did not have a great experience.
Yeah.
And she came out of that just absolutely paranoid about everything. And she was not with him when he was here telling us the story.
Hmm.
And so we helped him set up. He had a picture of her. He helped her set up the profile in his device, and he scanned her remotely. He gets home. He's not told her a thing about it. He gets home and he says there was a calming effect. He says she was no way perfect, but she was definitely calmer. So I walked over to her and I told her about the scanner. I says it has this voice program. Will you let me do your voice? She spoke for the 10 seconds. He put the headphones on. She listened to all 12 minutes. She's back to normal after one inner voice session.
Wow.
Back to
Wow.
normal. That is absolutely amazing.
Yes.
There was an
Yes.
emotional something that was going on that needed to be put back into balance. That's all it was.
Hmm.
We've had other
Hmm.
people that have, people that have had a bad tooth. In fact, we just talked about this a few weeks ago. This lady was coming in to see her health practitioner up in Michigan, and she had moved down to Florida, so she wasn't there all the time, but she was up visiting, goes in to see the doctor, scans her and says, you've got something wrong with the number 20 or 31 molar. And she said, well, that's a crown. He said, well, I'm just telling you, there's something there. And I think that's why you're having all these issues with your thyroid and your breast and all this other stuff. She says, I think I'd go in and see a dentist and just have him check that. So she goes and sees a dentist that is not a normal dentist because this isn't where she lives, but she goes and sees the dentist. They do an x-ray. The bottom of the root is the tip of a drill bit that had been that left there 12 years
Oh,
previous from a
oh,
dentist in there. And she's been having all these health issues. So the dentist says, listen, I really think we need to pull that tooth, get that bit out because I think it's septic, gets it out, cleans it out, flushes it, puts in a new root canal. She comes back in to see Pam a couple days later and says, you've saved my life. I don't have any more of those issues. My breast doesn't have the tenderness almost within hours. She
wow.
says it was absolutely amazing. But it was the scanner that picked up the tooth. It didn't say there was a bit, just said there's an issue with this tooth. Go
Hmm.
see the dentist. That kind
Wow.
of stuff is amazing to
It,
me.
it, oh, it's truly amazing. That's truly amazing. Those are great stories. Now, again, this is where at this point in the show, we're going to be running out of time quick. And we have so many more levels to talk about with the AO scanner and the optimizer because it works with the chakras. You have the homeopathics that are in there. You've got energy readings that are in there. I can't even remember all of these. Plus, there's the whole set of affirmations, which I find fascinating, where you can go and make your own playlist. You can go and select the different things, whether it is abundance, whether it is health related. I mean, this goes on and on. And I'm going to give out a link right now, but we're not done, Loran, so don't sneak off from me. The
Okay.
link that we're going to give out, and Chris, who's running the equipment, is going to put it on the screen, and I'm going to read it for those listening to the audio only. It's shop.solexnation.com/Dr. Joe. That's shorthand. Let me spell it out. Shop, SHOP dot SOLEXNation.com/DRJOE. Shop.solexnation.com/Dr. Joe. And I'll give that out again at the end of the show here in a few minutes. So, Loran, a harder question that I hope you don't mind my asking is what about the competition? Aren't there other AO scanners or variations of them out there? And we're going to assume yes, because any good business has some sort of competition. And how is this different? How is Solex and this AO scanner different?
Okay. So there's several energy type scanners out there. AO scan is one. We've been there since 2010. Then you've got Zyto and you've got Syra and you've got Biotron and Hunter and MDS 3D. There's a bunch of them out there, and they're all good in their own way. They're all good. They're all tapping into the energies around us. What separates us, I think, best and more definitely from others is the specificity of our reports. You
Hmm.
know, some of these others out there, as good as they are, the reports come out more like a psychic reading, meaning that you can almost read anything into it that you want, so that you're never wrong. I don't
Right.
afraid of being wrong. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I'm right 85% of the time, which is way better than placebo. And in some cases, even more. I think that's the biggest thing. Now, there
Mhm.
is one or two other apps that I'm aware of out there that are a scanner app, and I think they're great. They're great apps, but again, it's the level of detail and the level of modules that are available on the AO scan. And now the AO scan it's $149 a month, and some people will say that's a lot of money for. It used to be $32,000. Okay, so you take
Dramatic difference.
149 a month and you divide that out to 30. It's like 11 or 12 years, and every month there's new updates and there's new
Yeah.
refinements. We just added the full dental. You mentioned a minute ago about the affirmations, and that's one of the things where some people affirmations are almost voodoo or new
Mm.
age stuff, but affirmations go back a long way,
Mhm.
all the way back to the Old Testament time. The Jews, Moses would have that headband, and I don't remember what they're called, but they had a headband on. They had these little canisters on them, and they would write their prayer on a little piece of papyrus, roll it up, put it in the canister, so that their prayer was always on them. There was
Mm.
on their mind all the time.
Mm.
An affirmation is the exact same thing. It is basically a prayer to ourselves or a gratitude to our God or our higher source. An affirmation is an intention in its purest form.
Yes.
And
Yes.
now we can put those affirmations, we can record them into a ring, we can record them into our necklace, we can record them into a Sephi dot, to where we keep those intentions that we want in our lives always all with us. So these are things that we can do that these other systems do not have the ability to do.
Ah. And those are great points, and thank you for answering that question. Also, affirmations to me are incredibly powerful, and it's one of my favorite things to do with the AO scanner and the optimizer is I create these fun affirmation playlists and then I let it play. Um, and again, there's so many things to talk about, but the question that occurs to me is, can you overuse this thing? I'm paying $150 a month. I enjoy paying $150 a month because I use this all day. I use the inner voice in the morning and sometimes in the afternoon, and I play other things during the day. And as I mentioned, it's playing a playlist right now. Can you
I don't
do
know
too
how you could.
much?
I don't know if you can do too much. And the thing is I don't just use it for myself. I use it for other people.
Yeah.
My wife has her own. I have my own. My one of my sons has his own. But a couple of my other children don't, and so we use it on them all the time.
Hmm.
I cannot tell you the amount of times I use it on an airplane
Yeah.
with somebody sitting right next to me. I'll pull it out and be doing a scan, and I'll look over and say, "Have you ever scanned yourself?" And then all of a sudden, it's like, "Well, what are you talking about?" Outside of you being weird, you're in my space. But
Right.
once they see that scan, though, the first thing is, "How did you know that?" And the answer is, "I didn't, but you did."
This is so fascinating. And as we're coming around the bend here on the finish line, let me ask a couple rapid fire kind of questions that deserve more space for you to give the answers. But this whole thing seems inspired by, as I remember looking at the website earlier, inspired by an author who was talking about quantum living. Fred, somebody, do I have that right? Can you tell me what that was? Do you remember?
Well, there's several. The first book that led me down this path was by Michael Hutchings, and it was a book called Mega Brain.
Mega brain. Yeah.
Mega Brain, and that's really what got me down this path. And then, or running into the Russian company that was
Yes.
making the original scanner, and
Hmm.
then negotiating with them the rights to use it, and then being able to take that and build our own. So there's so many smart people. This isn't a one man job. I just had to be part of a team that put this together. And I'm grateful for that opportunity to be there. But what makes me get up in the morning is I know I'm going to hear another story today from somebody out there
Ah,
that had an experience, whether it
yeah.
was with a family member, a friend, or their pet. It's amazing. It's really
I
amazing.
love it. I love it. I love it. I love what you're doing and I love where you're headed. What do you think is the most important thing for people to know about the AO scanner and maybe even the possibility of wellness and healing and the phrase that's used with the company website, quantum living? What's the most important thing to know?
We need to learn how to trust our own instinct, to trust
Mm,
ourselves. And the scanner is going to be one of those things that helps teach us how to trust
mhm,
ourselves. But
mhm,
quantum living is living our best life with the intention of lifting those around us. And
mm,
if you're not able to be in that space, then you have no right to have one of these devices. If
Mm,
all it is about you, then you're in the wrong place. We need to be like the candle on the hill. We need
mhm.
to want to lift other people up. And as we lift others, we can't help but lift ourselves. And living that quantum life of being grateful and being loving is really the key. That is the magic.
That is very beautiful. I got chills listening to you speak there. This show is called Zero Limits Living, and I often ask my guests, do you think we have any limits?
No, none, except
None.
those that we put on ourselves.
Yeah, and that's what I usually say is I think the only limits are our self-imposed ones, our own mental constructs. And my final question, when you knew I was going to be interviewing you and you knew you were going to be on this show, was there a question you were hoping I would ask? Was there a story you were hoping you would get a chance to tell? Something, here's your chance. You can share the story, the question, whatever it happens to be.
I think the question I would ask Joe is, how has the AO scan impacted you?
Yes. Actually,
How
that's a
has it
great question.
impacted?
How has it impacted you? How has the AO scan and this whole business impacted you?
I look at life and people through an entirely different set of eyes that I did 12 years ago.
Mm,
I look at people and I see more of their qualities than their, what we would say are their distractors. I truly am learning how to love more freely and
mm,
judge less. And that is, I mean, if I died today, just having learned that one thing is the most important thing I could have learned. Being more tolerant with my children, more tolerant with those that I'm around. And that all already it comes from doing the inner voice. I things that would really normally make me angry seem to just kind of melt away and say, I can deal with that.
Lauren, you are amazing. I am very grateful. You have helped me. You will help Lisa when she watches this, and you've helped a whole lot of people understand themselves better. And I can't thank you enough. I've been talking to Loran Swenson, and the website to go to check out the company and what we've been talking about. I gave it earlier, but it's shop.solexnation.com/Dr. Joe. In fact, for those who can see the visual, there it is, but Chris will put it on the screen. I'm Dr. Joe Vitale. You've been watching Zero Limits Living. Every week I bring you inspiration and information to transform your life. You can watch the show on 1,000 different places, including Roku and Amazon and Apple and Spotify and YouTube. Or just go to ZeroLimitsLivingTV.com, where I'm putting all the episodes. Check out Miracles Coaching. Check out my new program, the Mental Time Travel System. Check out the Solex nation.com/Dr. Joe. I want to thank Lux Media, Candace Barr, Chris running the cameras, and everybody who watches and supports this show. I love you. I'm grateful for you. Expect miracles.
Glutathione is a big word. It's the body's own master antioxidant. It's a scavenger for free radical, bacteria, and viruses. There are no products in the market with the ingredient NACET. NACET increases the production of glutathione that's in our body already to strengthen and enhance our immune system, elevate sense of well-being, support muscle strength and endurance, cognitive function, and liver support. It helps with increased energy and blood sugar regulation. Get your bottle of GSH Plus from www.salvationnutra.com.